Hello, today is Friday, October 18th, and welcome to episode 374 of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you quickly up to speed 3 times a week on the national security and foreign policy debates shaking up America. I'm NSI's Deputy Executive Director, Martha Miller. I'm joined today by NSI Fellow Jessica Jones, NSI Senior Fellow Bishop Garrison, and newly announced NSI Advisory Board member Lester Munson. It is also
very exciting
birthday today. And
even more exciting.
Wow. I was reminded that 57 is the new 17.
That's right.
Minus 40.
Thank you. Ignore those intervening 40 years.
That math does not math, I believe is what they say.
So please wish Lester a happy birthday in the comments, and we will get back to that at the end. Today, we'll be discussing the death of Hamas leader Sinwar, what this means for the Middle East. And yesterday, the IDF killed Sinwar during a strike or operations in Gaza. He led Hamas operations since 2017 and is believed to be the key architect of the October 7th, 2023 attack, in which Palestinian militants killed 1,200 people in Israel. President Biden and other Western leaders responded with calls for a ceasefire. President Macron said this moment must be seized to return hostages and for the fighting to be stopped. Sinwar's death, though, complicates a ceasefire potentially, given his role in making decisions on a ceasefire, and certainly also given the fact that much of Hamas's leadership was taken out earlier this year. Sinwar's brother could be an important role in deciding whether the ceasefire negotiations restart. Hezbollah has also made comments after the attacks, and Netanyahu is now placed into an interesting situation given the pressure from international leaders and also pressures he has at home, both in terms of domestic support for a ceasefire and his own political allies wanting to finish off Hamas. Lester, Sinwar's death comes at a critical juncture, both for Hamas and the broader Middle East. What immediate repercussions do you foresee for Hamas and Gaza? And how might his death impact ceasefire negotiations?
Well, Martha, I think it's a great question. This was a key goal of the Israelis, of course, to get rid of the architect of the October 7th attacks. So major achievement for the IDF. Interesting that it just happened on a routine patrol through Gaza and not one of these more sophisticated espionage-related attacks that Israel has been pulling off in the last couple months. But I think the big question here is, how do the Palestinians and how does Hamas respond to this opportunity? Sinwar was a radical and a hardliner and a killer and a thug and the worst kind of leader. He killed and tortured Palestinians who were willing to talk to Israel. Will that change now? Will Hamas and the Palestinians recraft their leadership and come up with a political entity that is capable of actually having a sensible negotiation with Israel? I think that is the real question here, not how Netanyahu will behave. We know what he's going to do. He's going to continue to press until Hamas is eliminated as a threat to Israel. The international community is going to support him, even if they say some things in public that make it look like they won't. So the real question is how the Palestinians respond here. I think the folks who do talk to them are going to have to bring tough messages and explain this is an opportunity for you to have a new way forward and to end this conflict and maybe get us on a real path to a two-state solution that would be more sustainable. I'm not super optimistic about that, but the opportunity is certainly there.
Bishop, now to you. Do you agree with Lester's assessment? And also, are you optimistic or pessimistic? Do you think that this gives an opportunity for a ceasefire?
I mean, just generally, I'm a cynic when it comes to a lot of this stuff. I agree with Les somewhat. I think there are a lot of questions to be asked here. First of all, no one is sad to see Sinwar go. He was horrible. He was horrible, terrible leader that took on heinous acts against innocent people, against his own people, as Lester says, against Palestinians. So I don't think that this is a bad thing that we've seen him go. The question is now what? I think there is, because he was such a hardliner, such a barrier to any type of ceasefire, peace negotiations. I think there is a small window that is now open. The question is whether or not both parties are willing and able to step through it. It is not necessarily in Benjamin Netanyahu, in his political interests to go ahead and push forward with the ceasefire. But I think strategically there are opportunities here, particularly when you're talking about 100 hostages that are still out there, that are still under Hamas's control. We want to bring those individuals back. I think the way to do that is through some type of negotiation, some type of talks. So the opportunity is there. But it's also on Hamas. Like you're talking about who's going to take leadership now. The Sinwar is gone, and that remains to be seen. There's going to be some instability there. And it's hard to negotiate with a group like that doesn't have someone at the top making decisions. So there's some pieces that remain to be seen here, but I do think it creates an opportunity for both parties to kind of bring the tensions down, save innocent lives, and bring some folks home.
Jess, now to you. Do you see this as a positive development? Do you see hope for the future when it comes to Gaza? And what do you think the implications are for the broader Middle East situation?
I think to, agree with Wes and Bishop to start off with, Sinwar's death is to be welcomed. So there's positivity in that. I think in the short term, whether there's a swing up in violence in Gaza or an actual, there's obviously going to be some chaos on the ground, whether that's folks trying to figure out their leadership level, who they're communicating with, what they're doing with the hostages they may hold. So I think it's hard to predict whether we're going to see a lull in violence or just a temporary spike as folks try to figure out what's going on in the ground. I think long term, to Les argues that it's he wants to see what Hamas and what they decide. I think we are not the deciders when it comes to the Middle East. A lot of it sits with Bibi, and I think it's interesting. You read his words talking about the ongoing war. Tasks aren't done. There's many challenges to be faced. And I would like, more from him on what does the future look like in his mind? What does the end of the conflict look like for Israeli security? What does it take for Israel to feel secure? What kind of government, the day after that we all hear about, what does that look like to Israel? Because right now they are a main driver. Two parties do have to come to the table, but they are a main driver. And so seeing more of what it would take to, for Israel to feel secure and to be able to come to the table is something I'm interested in.
Well, one thing is clear, the conflict's outcomes will not only shape Israel's security, but influence broader regional stability. And the international community will be closely watching these developments in the coming days, and we will see how both sides respond to the significant loss in leadership and how Western leaders engage and respond. On that note, that's a wrap. Thanks so much to Devlin Burney, Cloud Jennings, and the NSI staff for their help in producing today's episode. Join us again on Monday, October 21st, for another episode of Fault Lines, NSI's podcast to get you smart fast on national security and foreign policy debates. Fault Lines is now on YouTube, so check out our channel for a video of today's episode. And if you like what you heard or saw, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, and wish Lester a happy birthday.